These are people who are serving our country, and these are people who are leading our troops, and these are people who are being discharged and losing all their benefits and all their pension and everything they've worked so hard for simply because they're gay, and that's unjust.
Stone steps, stone heart, back turned on a hero's part. The earth shakes, it swallows the hope of man. Red-faced, angry eyes, discharged from a body of lies. Your questions, they couldn't be more out of line.
This law has tarnished this country for too long. Regardless of a service member's sexual orientation, military service demands extraordinary commitment and discipline, and it exacts high costs.
You know, you've seen a steady rollout of leaders in the military, from Secretary of Defense Gates to Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Mullen, now David Petraeus, coming out in support of overturning the policy. Our goal and what we are pushing for, obviously, is to get a vote this year.
7 years ago, this coming Sunday, as the start of the ground forces entered the country of Iraq, I was on a logistical convoy, and outside the city of Basra, when I got out of my vehicle and triggered a landmine. I had only been in Iraq for 3 hours, giving me the dubious, I guess, distinction, honor, whatever you want to call it, as the first American injured in the Iraq War. But it was not till 2007 that I came to Washington and pretty much told not just the country, but the rest of the world, that the first American injured in the Iraq War was a gay Marine.
I think it's time that we get to where people are at least talking about, you know, how we're going to make the change of repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell and what it means to this country, especially in the time of two wars.
Despite the fact that I was trained in human intelligence collection and spoke 5 languages, I was discharged from the military under Don't Ask, Don't Tell because someone happened to find out that I was gay and outed me to the rest of my unit. And just 6 months after 9/11, the military lost a multilingual human intelligence collector because of someone else's actions, not because of my own.
So one morning, 5 months into Joe's deployment, I got a call at 6:30 in the morning. Nancy was crying and could barely speak. It was probably only 10 or 15 seconds, but it seemed like an eternity to me. I waited for her to compose herself enough to tell me that Joe's aunt had passed away. I know, they laugh about it now, but believe me, they were laughing then. He then says, "My knees buckled." Nancy didn't know to lead with the assurance that Joe was fine. It just didn't occur to her. I've never been so angry, distraught, relieved. I don't know what really. And it had nothing to do with Nancy. It wasn't her fault. But I bawled and sobbed the entire commute to work, and I had to compose myself as if nothing had happened. I couldn't even talk to one coworker about it.
Ho, ho! Don't ask, don't tell has got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Don't ask, don't tell has got to go. Hey, hey!
We are here today as citizens who, because of our responsibility and because of the duty that's in our hearts as Americans, we find it absolutely unconscionable that in a moment when soldiers who are willing to live and die for their country deploy overseas and make the ultimate sacrifice in a country that talks about integrity, that they are forced to lie in shame about who they are.
What do we want? Equality! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Equality! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Equality!